Hi everyone, this is Dan Pfeiffer coming to you from the home offices in Wahoo, Nebraska. No, we are in Greenfield, Wisconsin today. We are in my condo. Coming to you today with a favor to ask of you. First off, this is not the favor, but it's just something I want to say. Hopefully you're all out there, you're at home, you're staying safe, you're doing the right things right now, washing your hands, doing everything you can to keep from getting this and certainly keep from spreading it. This is a community thing, and you hear about what's going on up in Grafton where they've needed to call in the National Guard and whatnot, and I'm taking this seriously. I hope you're taking this seriously too. So hopefully you still have the chance to do some work from home. If you're not, I feel bad for you. Hopefully we're going to come together as a society, find a way to both beat this and help out the people who are going to need help when this is all said and done. So I'm rooting for all of you out there in southeastern Wisconsin and hoping that you're all doing the right thing and helping each other out. That's what we need to do to get through this very difficult situation. For a lot of you, this is going to be the first time you're seeing my quarantine beard. It's not really a beard yet. It's just kind of scruff. I'm going to grow it out, see what can happen. I'm kind of hoping that maybe I can turn it into like a goatee, but I don't know. I've never done facial hair in my life, and to be honest, this is why. But we'll see exactly what happens with this. Hey, I wanted to lay something out there for some folks that I've worked with over the course of my life. You might say, in these times where you have healthcare professionals, my wife works in childcare. She is still having to go to work every day, working with kids who are not known for having the best hygiene when they're 2 years old. So, we're all kind of putting ourselves in harm's way in some way, shape, or form. Some of the folks I wanted to talk about today are the folks that work in local radio. Specifically sports talk radio. I sometimes jokingly say I have the dubious distinction. I don't know if I would necessarily seriously say that it's dubious, but of working for all three of Milwaukee's dedicated all sports stations, or at least the three ownership groups that have an all sports station. Way back in the day, I was with what is now 94.5 ESPN Radio. I was Sports Radio 1510 WAUK back when I was there from 2002 to 2004. From 2005 to 2006, I was with Sports Radio 1250 WSSP in Milwaukee. That is now 105.7 The Fan. And I've been very fortunate since 2013 to be both the Marquette coverage person and the high school football voice of iHeartRadio Milwaukee, which has included both the Big 920 WOKY and 97.3 The Game. And that's why we're talking today. So, over at 105.7 The Fan, they've been around for about 15 years or so, if you include the Sports Radio 1250 years as well. And like all sports talk stations right now, they're hurting a bit for content. Understandably, there's no games going on. It's tough for them to talk about what's going on in the real world because it's very serious. And they're looking for something to fill the time so that they can stay on the air. Not to mention, it's a scary time for those stations because they depend a lot on local businesses for their ad revenue to survive. A lot of sports bars, a lot of restaurants. And you know what? For those businesses, this is a very difficult time right now. So they might be looking at decreasing their ad budget, as I have a cat that's trying to tap at me as I'm sitting here. When they're looking for stuff to talk about on these stations, it's understandable that they kind of dig into their archives. And what the folks over at 105.7 The Fan are doing right now is they have a bracket of their personalities from the past 15 years. And I was a little surprised that I even made the bracket. But not only did I get in, apparently I was worthy of an 11 seed in this bracket in the Chip Ramsey region. He was the program director when I was there. When I first heard that I was in this bracket, I was kind of like, it's a station I used to work for. I was only there for 15 months. I work for a competing station now. I don't know if I necessarily want to promote what they're doing in this bracket. It's kind of like a thing in radio that you just try not to focus on, try to just kind of ignore the competitors. But when I saw who I was paired up against, it kind of made me think about it a little bit more. So as the 11 seed in the Chip Ramsey bracket, they put me up against the number 6 seed from their station, a guy by the name of Mike McGivern. Now you might know Mike McGivern's brother, John McGivern. He is perhaps Milwaukee's greatest storyteller, very involved with the theater. He's been on PBS, et cetera, even if you don't know Mike McGivern or my work in sports talk radio. So Mike McGivern, in addition to being a salesperson for 105.7 The Fan, is also their high school voice, as the camera shakes because a cat has rolled over right next to it. But he does their Varsity Blitz show on Friday nights that goes directly up against the games that we do on either the Big 920 or 97.3 The Fan. He also has done some games with me. He's worked with me over time. We've worked with a lot of the same people. And, you know, in a way, because we compete and because we're still friends, you know, we still know each other, we like each other. It's the kind of thing where it was kind of like, you know, it'd be good for them. And not only that, it'd be good for me and the work that I do with iHeartRadio to maybe at least make this a little bit of a contest. Not to mention that, you know, I talk up our broadcasts on iHeartRadio all the time. I like to say that our high school football broadcasts are just as good, if not better, than some of what you hear at the college level or the professional level. In fact, I've actually got a few highlights for you here. In fact, we're going to play those right now.
Handoff, Mulholland, so many options for this Kimberly team. He breaks free across the 30, 20, 10, 2 men to beat. He will beat them. Touchdown, Kimberly Papermakers. They take an early 6-0 lead with 4:46 remaining in the first quarter. 1st and 10 for the Sabres. Pitch forward and a stick laid to Jones by Kimberly. My goodness, popping up. Clapping his hands, Charlie Biolo, he has been solid on the Papermaker defense. It will be a completion on the forward pitch from Alba to Derek Jones, but Jones will lose 2 yards on the play. Vandenboom will go from the pistol. All the big bodies are up there. One receiver split out wide to the right, and it is Mulholland lined up off of the right shoulder of Vandenboom. 14 seconds left. Ball at the 1. Handoff, Mulholland powering his way forward. He gets in! Touchdown, Kimberly!
So that's just an example of some of the fun that we have on those high school broadcasts. And I get the chance to work with some amazing people on the high school broadcasts with iHeartRadio. Paul Junio is my on-site spotter, and he's just so great at what he does. He brings his computer, he keeps stats. We have 3rd and 4th down conversions and time of possession, and we're able to give you just a complete picture of the game as the result of what he brings to the table. Then we've got our color commentator, Tom Swiddle, WFCA Hall of Fame coach. He knows just about every coach in the area and how they all think. So he makes the broadcasts outstanding. The guys that fill in for me, the folks at iHeart are great. They know that I also do PA for Marquette Soccer, so they get guys like Reed Magnum, who's outstanding on the air, Jimmy Kuska, who's wonderful working with web stuff for iHeartRadio, in addition to doing high school sports for them out of the Madison market. Don Wadowitz has helped out with some of the broadcasts too. The guys that I've worked with behind the scenes, Tim Scott is just tremendous as a program director. Helps me do a lot of things differently that, it gives me a lot of freedom, which I really appreciate. The guys over at the studios in Milwaukee, Gregory John, program director for a time for the Big 920 WOKY, a guy who isn't with iHeart anymore, but a guy that I appreciate for putting in a good word for me when it was time for them to hire a high school broadcaster. I was the first person they hired for the sports station out of the Milwaukee market, and that's due in large part to Jesse Mitchell, who at the time was on 97.3 when it was a pop station. So all of these great people have helped me out with these high school broadcasts, and I want them to know that they're working with someone who is recognized, who cares, who is seen by people as someone who does a good job, much the way that they do a good job. And so when I thought about all of those folks, and I thought about being in this bracket, going up against the host of a show that we compete with on a regular basis, and we always try to put up a good show, much the way that they always try to put up a good show, I thought, you know what, why should I do it any differently here? For the sake of those other people that I work with, I should put up a fight in this bracket. I should try and see if I can have some success against Mike McGivern and maybe even win this matchup. It's going to be difficult. He's going to call in a lot of favors, but this is me calling in my favor too. So here's the deal, all right? I'm going to ask you to go to 1057thefan.com, click on their bracket link, and then go down to the Chip Ramsey region. It'll say Dan Pfeiffer. It'll have a nickname in the middle. They misspelled Fife. Don't worry about that nickname. You want to vote for Dan Pfeiffer in that matchup, all right? That's all I'm asking you to do. If you want to be extra kind after that, you know what? Open up your iHeartRadio app on your mobile device or go to thebig920.com or thegamemke.com and hit the play button. You know what? Support local talk radio during these difficult times. They'll have good information for you in terms of helping you to be more safe and deal with some of the situations that are going on right now, but they'll also give you a laugh. They'll take your mind off of everything else that's going on. They do great work at iHeartRadio. I owe it to them to promote what they do because of how good they have been to me. So, again, 1057thefan.com. We've got that link up on the screen right here. And then make sure to open up your iHeartRadio app or go to thebig920.com or thegamemke.com. You know, right now I've even got my Marquette Courtside What If Sports Millennium Bracket going on up there where we're kind of having some fun with comparing teams from the last 20 years with Marquette basketball. Again, I'm helping out. I'm trying to give them content and something to talk about during a time where there are no sports to talk about and when a lot of people have a lot on their minds. So I really encourage you to both help me out, help the sports radio stations out, both 105.7 The Fan and, of course, my great friends over at iHeartRadio. And you know what? It's something to do. If you've got a little bit of time, why not, right? So that should be about it for all I have to tell you. Again, stay safe, do the right things right now. This is Dan Pfeiffer saying be a fan. Thanks for listening, and good night, everybody.